Selamat bergabung Bapak dan Ibu sekalian. Saya Farah Karimah selaku MC. Selamat datang kembali di GES Indonesia Digital Series yang merupakan rangkaian kegiatan dari acara GES Indonesia 2020. Telah hadir bersama saya hari ini sebagai pembicara Dr. Luh Anik Mayani, Director of SEAMEO QITEP in Language atau Southeast Asian Ministers of Education Organization Quality Improvement for Teachers and Education Personnel in Language. Dr. Luh Anik Mayani memiliki gelar dokter dalam bidang linguistik dari Universitas of Cologne, Jerman, yang didanai oleh DAAD pada tahun 2010 sampai 2014. Beliau memperoleh gelar master dalam bidang linguistik pada tahun 2004 dan gelar sarjana bahasa Inggris pada tahun 2001 dari Universitas Udayana Bali. Beliau adalah Presiden Masyarakat Linguistik Indonesia saat ini. Di antara banyak profesi dan pengalaman yang dimiliki, beliau adalah seorang peneliti bahasa yang telah menerbitkan banyak makalah dan artikel di bidang linguistik dan beberapa di antaranya dipresentasikan dalam forum nasional dan internasional. Sejumlah publikasi terbarunya adalah Affricates, Nasal Obstruent Sequences and Phrasal Accent in Tajil 2016 dalam Linguistik Indonesia, Klasifikasi Kelas Kata di Tajil 2017 dalam Nusa Linguistic Studies of Language in and Around Indonesia dan Consonant Geminates in Simalungun Language 2017 dalam Linguistik Indonesia. Topik kita hari ini adalah Challenges and Solution of Learning During COVID-19 Pandemic. Pandemi COVID-19 telah mempengaruhi sistem pendidikan di seluruh dunia termasuk Indonesia. Cepatnya penyebaran COVID-19 memaksa pemerintah Indonesia untuk menutup sekolah. Berbagai inisiatif telah diambil oleh Kementerian Pendidikan dan Kebudayaan Indonesia untuk memastikan kegiatan belajar tetap berjalan meskipun tidak ada sekolah tatap muka. Salah satunya adalah penerapan pembelajaran jarak jauh. Tantangan signifikan dalam pelaksanaan pembelajaran jarak jauh dikarenakan fasilitas yang tidak merata, motivasi siswa, kurangnya kompetensi dan teknologi informasi dan komunikasi guru, materi pembelajaran yang tidak sesuai, atau kurikulum yang kurang memadai, dihadirkan termasuk solusi untuk mengatasi tantangan tersebut. Kepada Dr. Luh Anik Mayani, waktu dan tempat kami persilakan.
Terima kasih Mbak Farah atas perkenalannya. Bapak Ibu, izinkan saya untuk berbagi layar sebelum memulai presentasi ini. Jadi hal yang akan saya presentasikan hari ini adalah tentang tantangan dan juga solusi pembelajaran, khususnya pembelajaran bahasa selama COVID-19 ini. Karena presentasi ini saya siapkan dalam bahasa Inggris, jadi saya mohon izin kepada Bapak Ibu untuk mempresentasikannya dalam bahasa Inggris. Baik, Bapak Ibu. Challenges of language learning amidst COVID-19 pandemic. So what happened during this COVID-19 pandemics? So COVID-19 pandemics has brought us changes of life order. What are they? So the first case of COVID-19 was confirmed in Indonesia on the 3rd of March 2020. And this outbreak made changes on the implementation of working and learning among our society, from working from the office or learning from school into working from home or learning from home. And on 10th of April until 4th of June 2020, the government implement the large-scale social restriction, especially in Jakarta. In Indonesian, we know this as pembatasan sosial berskala besar or PSBB. And then on the 5th of June until now, we are implementing what we call new normal situation. And in July 2020, there was a discussion whether or not we have to open the school, and then there was also an opinion, okay, we can open the school, but it should be based on the COVID-19 zone. When the schools are in the green zone, so they are allowed to open the school, but not for the, for example, the red area or orange zone area. And then in October 2020, so for the time being, Jakarta again implements the uh, large-scale social restriction, what they call PSBB transition. So those changes of life order during COVID-19 pandemics brought challenges, and these challenges should be responded, of course. So let's for the next slide, we will see what changes happened on the education policy in Indonesia. So, in order to respond the COVID-19 pandemic, the Ministry of Education and Culture of Indonesia um, published a circular letter number 4 2020 on the 24th of March 2020. And among some points within these circular letters, at least there are 6 important points to discuss. The first one is that there was a cancellation for the 2020 national examination. And of course, the learning from school is substituted into learning from home through online or distant learning. And there was also a rearrangement for the school examination, student promotions, and also for school enrollment. And schools are expected to rearrange the school operational assistance fund and also for the education operational assistance. And in general, we can see there are at least 3 changes. The first one is that the online learning or distant learning substitute the face-to-face learning. And the second one is that school substitutes home substitute school as a place of learning, because students are expected to learn from home. And the third one, in terms of facilities, it seems that internet facilities substitutes the physical facilities of schools. So those are at least 3 general big changes in the learning implementation in Indonesia. So now, with those changes, what happened to the students? Are students happy with these changes? So the Commission of Children Protection in Indonesia, or KPAI, Komisi Perlindungan Anak Indonesia, conducted a survey cover more than around 1,700 students from primary, lower, and upper secondary school on the implementation of distant learning, and the survey was conducted on 13th until 20th of April 2020 in 20 provinces and 54 cities or districts in Indonesia. What are the results? So the majority of students, around 76% of students, said that they are not happy learning from home. The reasons is that most of students have difficulties in doing school tasks online. And about 23% of the students said that they are happy learning from home. And the reasons are very practical. So they said that, okay, because I have to learn from home, it means that I don't have to get up early in the morning. and I don't have to wear a school uniform. Although for the time being, schools said that students also have to wear uniform whether they are learning from home. Yeah. And about 53% of students, they said that they don't have internet access at home, and this fact shows us that it becomes a significant barrier in the implementation of distance learning during COVID-19 pandemic. So those are what happens to the student. And what about the teachers? Uh, instead of KPAI, there is also Federasi Serikat Guru Indonesia, so Federation of Indonesian Teachers Union. Uh, they conducted a survey related to distance learning, covering about 600 teachers, yeah, primary school teachers until the upper secondary school teachers. Uh, as respondents in 14 provinces and 30 districts or cities in Indonesia. And what are the results? So, what happened to teachers are about 53% of teachers said that they are still strict to the completion of the whole basic competency listed in the curriculum. And about 24% teachers said that they try their best to complete the whole basic competency listed in the curriculum. And 22% of teachers said that they do not target to complete the whole basic competency listed in the curriculum. So these facts, of course, can be compared to the content of the circular later from the Ministry of Education and Culture, as mentioned above. Yeah. So the ministry said that teachers are not pushed, yeah, to complete the whole curriculum during this pandemic. So teachers are given freedom, yeah, to choose which materials are suitable in this situation. So the content of the circular later said that learning from home through online learning or distant learning, yeah, teachers are expected to, okay, you may not complete the whole curriculum materials for students' promotion and graduation. So from the circular later and the fact, we can see that there is no synchronization. Yeah. So now, other interesting data that I want to share you is that this online learning or this distant learning, um, show some interesting facts for students and teacher. For students, more than 95% said that they do this distant learning or online learning by mobile phones. Yeah, and this make them suffer from eye pain and tiredness. Yeah, poor student. So sorry for that. And about almost 80% said that there were no interaction, yeah, between students and teachers during online or distant learning. And if they do have this interaction, most of interactions are in the form of chatting, yeah, 87%, and interaction through Zoom meeting, 20%, and there are also interaction through WhatsApp call or telephone call, yeah, less than 10%. And 42% of the respondents said that they don't have internet access, or in this case, they don't have quota to access the internet. And more than 15% said that they don't have adequate devices, for example, laptop or mobile phones, to support this online or distance learning. And for teachers, in addition to the way they complete the basic competency listed in the curriculum, yeah, only 8% of teachers were familiar with digital-based learning, and less than 10% said that they never implemented digital-based learning. And most teachers are only familiar with social media such as WhatsApp, Line, Instagram, and Facebook to conduct their online or distant learning. And only 8.8% of teachers gave different assignments to students who had limited facility for online or distant learning. So now, actually, what is distant learning? Why should we do this in this pandemic situation? So the definition of distant learning I quoted here is from the Ministry of Education and Culture, number 109, 2019. So in this regulation, it is said that distant learning aims to provide higher education services to community groups who cannot attend face-to-face education, expand access, and facilitate learning in higher education. So distant learning is an educational system with some characteristics. There is open access, self-learning, good mastery of using ICT, and or using other technology media. And distant learning can also be done in a blended learning systematic. So from those definition, we can spot some characteristics of distant learning. We need wide access, so it is conducted without face-to-face interaction. It should be open access, and it involves independent or self-learning from the students, and it is a requirement to master the information and communication technology. So from those explanation, we can say that there are some excellences of distant learning. The first one, this kind of learning is not restricted to space and time. Yeah, students can learn wherever or whenever they want to learn. Yeah, so in this context, distant learning is suitable for the geographical condition of Indonesia because of different time zone and etc. Yeah, and the second one, it offers an opportunity to everyone, particularly to the community who cannot present in a face-to-face learning. And of course, because it can be done from home, so it saves energy and cost, especially for traveling and from school to home, or vice versa, and also save costs for meals. And it forces us to enhance internet access equality and also education quality. So now, what are challenges to implement distant learning in Indonesia? We can see that there is facility inequality. among our students or our teachers. And the second challenge is that not all of our teachers are ICT literate. And from the students' perspective, we can see that not all of our students are disciplined in doing this, and they are not independent enough to do self-learning. So there's also a problem or challenge in the materials or in the method um, uh, provided for this distant learning. So for the time being, the material provided or method mastered by our teachers do not fully support the distant learning. And of course, in the perspective of curriculum, the curriculum is not adequate to the emergency situation caused by COVID-19 pandemics. And now, how could we address those challenges? So, for example, in order to address the facility inequality, there are things that we can do. So before discussing the way we can address this facility inequality, I would like to show you there are three situations based on our students' access to internet or other facilities. There are students who live in a non-TV signal area, no telephone signal or no internet signal at all. So the second type of students are those who live in a limited internet connection. And the third type of students is those who live in a good internet connection, for example, here in Jakarta. So, dealing with the internet or quota, for example, so a school operational assistance fund can be used to provide this credit or quota to support teachers and students to access this online learning. And for those who are not living in the same same kind of connection, so teachers could provide two kinds of learning materials. Learning materials who can be can be used in an offline learning situation. For example, teachers have to provide modules, worksheets, or other printed resources for their students. And for students who can access the online learning materials, so teachers may provide learning in a learning management system, or teachers can supply the materials from YouTube, for example, or using video conference application, social media, or etc. So other option is that doing a combination type of learning, online, offline, or blended learning. So for teachers and students who are in a good internet condition area, they can do fully online learning. And for those who are not who live in a not quite good internet connection area, they can combine between online and offline learning. And in this case, blended learning can be done by teachers and students. And for those who live in a non-signal area, like it or not, they still have to do the offline learning. which is really hard right now. And this situation also pushed our teachers to adjust the assignment. Yeah. So they have to provide assignments for students who have limited access. Um, can be done by using an offline assignment. But for students who have good facilities in internet, the assignment can be done online. So those are options for teachers and students to address the facility inequality. Now, um, to address the fact that not all teachers are ICT literate, teachers need to do some of few things here. They can do self-learning. Yeah? They can learn how to use ICT by joining online or offline program. And then they are forced to be creative in managing media for applicable learning method. Combining offline online tasks, and they have to know when to use or what materials to use during the offline or online learning. And teachers are also forced to be capable to maximize home as a learning area for students right now, or to maximize the parents' role, yeah, as well as students' surrounding as a learning resource. So teachers can, for example, giving tasks to students to interview someone who personally close to the students about certain theme, or they can make certain description on learning environment, or teachers ask the student to observe the development of certain theme, or even to practice certain procedural texts, for example, how to cook, how to plan, how to operate some gadget, etc. Yeah. So in this case, contextual learning need to be done. And other tips for teachers, is the self-enrichment with information about online learning sources. For example, to access some learning management systems such as Rumah Belajar, Ruang Guru, Zenius, Edmodo, yeah, or teachers can enrich themselves with links related to online language learning. Now, what have SEAMEO QITEP language done addressing the limitation of teachers' competence in, dealing with ICT? We have conducted some webinars, to share good practices of between teachers among this pandemic. So in July, we had conducted a webinar on the utilization of information technology in language learning during COVID-19 pandemic. And especially for Indonesian language for foreign learners, we also conducted a webinar talking about what Indonesian teachers for language learning can do, dealing with distance learning technology during this pandemic. And in September, we provide a webinar to for teachers to share their good practices. And for your information, sharing good practices amidst COVID-19 pandemic for language teachers in Southeast Asia will be conducted on 10 until 11 November 2020. So you can also join this webinar. And what about the fact that not all students are disciplined or being independent to learn at home? So we try to give you some options. Yeah. So dealing with students non-independent, yeah, in this case, you can or teachers can give some tasks which initiate the involvement of teachers or persons in the student surrounding. So this kind of technique will indirectly involve parents' control when students doing their home learning. And another way is that the task to be given with clear instructions, with examples, with references, and those will enable students to uh, to tackle the task well. And another way is that the assessment is not based on the presence of the student, but more to the creativity or responsibility of students in doing or submitting the assignment. And the last tip, maybe, uh, the involvement of students in arranging the learning schedule, yeah, in order to avoid the overlap stacks or huge time consumption in doing such tasks. Yeah? So students and teacher can arrange the schedule based on the student's condition. And this way is also aimed to make the students have responsibility on their own arranged timetable. So, in order to provide learning materials to enrich teachers' competence, yeah, in doing the distance learning, SEAMEO QITEP in language has provided some open access language learning videos. So you can visit our website in this address, and you can find at least 20 learning videos, yeah, in order to learn how to do or conduct text-based learning, or how to conduct discovery learning or project-based learning. In addition to videos, we also provide the modules, so teachers can do self-learning with these modules. And regarding the curriculum, I think the Ministry of Education and Culture has responded it promptly. Yeah, from the circular letter which was published in March, there are some rearrangement, as I said before. And the other response from the Ministry of Education and Culture is the ministerial decree about the guidelines for curriculum implementation in educational units under special circumstances. And this decree was published on the 4th of August 2020. The main points of this new or emergency curriculums are educational units can provide a curriculum that is suitable for the needs of the students, under special circumstances. In this case, the pandemic. And the second point is that the educational units under special circumstances can choose one of the three curriculum options offered by the ministry. The first one, they may to continue to refer to the national curriculum. The second option is that the schools are able to use the emergency curriculum. And the third condition is that schools are allowed to simplify the curriculum independently, based on their school condition and also the students' condition. So in general, this curriculum, in this curriculum, any basic competency for each subject will be reduced so that the teachers and students can focus on essential competency. So in this case, the government expects that the student can continue learning at the next level of education. So from those presentation, there are some points that we can conclude. For this pandemic, I believe that Indonesian Ministry of Education and Culture has given a prompt response, by issuing curriculum implementation in educational units under special circumstances, or in this case, emergency curriculum. The second one is that teacher training centers, for example, SEAMEO QITEP language or other institutions, are expected to conduct trainings on the use of ICT to support teachers in conducting distant learning or online learning. And the third, another thing that we can do is that sharing good practices on digital-based language learning through online seminar or workshops for teachers. And the other thing is that we can increase the role of parents or students' neighborhood to make home as an enjoyable place of learning. And this challenge is for our government to expand internet access all over Indonesia. In this case, the government can collaborate with communication service provider. And those are the references. And finally, I would like to thank you for your kind attention.
Ya, terima kasih Dr. Luh Anik Mayani untuk pembahasan yang sangat menarik. Bapak dan Ibu sekalian, akhirnya sampai juga kita di penghujung acara. Demikian acara webinar kami kali ini. Kami ucapkan terima kasih yang sebesar-besarnya kepada Dr. Luh Anik Mayani. Untuk mendapatkan informasi yang lengkap, silakan menghubungi kami di marketing@tarsus.co.id. Sampai jumpa di GES Indonesia Digital Series selanjutnya. Tidak lupa saya ingatkan untuk terus mengikuti conference stream kami selama 2 hari, 4 dan 5 November 2020. Stay tuned and don't miss it.
Terima kasih Mbak Farah.
Terima kasih Ibu.